The special school board meeting of Thursday, March 21st, Thursday, March 31st, 2016 at 7 p.m. here at Historical Central High School. I just, Member Leffler Kemp, if you could please call the roll.
Sure. Chair Harla. Here. Member Johnston. Member Kirby. Here. Member Alana Oswald. Here. Member Sampson. Here. Member Welty. Here. Superintendent Grunstead. Here. Deputy Clerk Bill Hansen. Here. And Secretary Melinda Tebow. Here. Student Rep Spencer Frederickson. Here. And the other student reps are excused. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to take note that Member Oswald will be participating from an alternate location in the hotel lobby meeting room, Hyatt Place, Boise Town Square, in Boise, Idaho, as she is with the DNA robotics team from Denfeld. So a thank you to Member Oswald for teleconferencing in with us. We appreciate your flexibility and ability to join us this evening. I would like to move on to the audience-related. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda for this evening? Moved by Member Samstead.
Second.
Seconded by Member Welty. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. All right, we will move on to the audience portion. Thank you, Member Johnston. We'll just remind folks and welcome public comment this evening. We do take part in our civility certified event, and many faces look familiar from Monday evening, and so we do in today's day of politics, it's good to see civility. I was proud of them for that, so look forward to hearing people. This evening, we just make sure we're paying attention, listening, being inclusive, showing respect, and working with one another. So we appreciate folks being here this evening and coming forward to speak. I would first like to welcome up Bernie Burnham. And I remind folks that we have 3 minutes to speak. There will be a light here, and as soon as it hits 3 minutes, I'll be saying to folks, thank you very much, because we do have a handful of speakers this evening. So, welcome, Bernie.
All right, thank you. Well, once again, here I am and speaking to you on behalf of our teachers and our other folks that work for ISD 709 as well. I'd like to say that I believe school board members should vote to maintain the current policy prohibiting the sale of the Central Heights site to a competitor. Fiscally, a better option would be to get one-time money from a non-competitor that will, at a minimum, maintain permanent property taxes income for the district. Children are not commodities. Competition in education is not equivalent to competition in the private sector. Charter school competition has accelerated public school closings around the state and the country, creating winners and losers. Enrollment losses will be a harsh reality for Duluth if the school board does not swiftly and boldly refocus its work on bringing parents, students, educators, and the community together in the work of strengthening Duluth public schools. Let's reject false choices and short-sighted promises and move toward uniting the community behind real and sustainable improvements like creating more full-service community schools. The success of this model has shown that by working together, diverse stakeholders can reinvigorate Duluth schools from the bottom up. And I, this afternoon, spent some time, again, at a community schools meeting, and it was very positive. I'm really excited about our movement towards helping Lincoln get up and running as a community school. And I believe in this process. I think it's good for all of the community. Through community engagement and participatory school improvement, Duluth can retain and attract new students and families for generations to come. So thank you. I know you have a very difficult decision tonight, and I do not envy you, to say the least. But I appreciate all the work that you do each and every day for us. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Marv Heikkinen. Thank you for joining us this evening, Mr. Heikkinen.
Thank you. With some reluctance, I'm not a great speaker, but I just felt I had to put my 2 cents worth in. I know many of you have made up your minds already, perhaps, and maybe whistling in the dark here. But I would like to say that Edison has played its cards well. They will get a school regardless of whether they get Central or not. So the question is for them, and with the transparency of the meeting, a very good meeting the other night at Lincoln. And now for the Duluth School District, I will say that it will be a lose situation in the long run. Sure, there's $14.2 million on the table, but in the long run, there will be more teacher layoffs, there will be more disgruntled parents, and more students will be drawn out of the school district. So the question I'm asking you is, who do you represent as a school district? You are elected by the people of Duluth to represent School District 709. School District 709, not any other district. So just to refresh our memories, the red plan, which is unfortunately many people, of course, still have bad memories of that plan. But if you remember when the red plan was introduced, there were 3 different plans, the red, blue, and the white plan, I believe. And one of the plans, I can't remember which color, called for the one high school. East and Denfeld would be gone, and one high school would be located. And where would that high school be located? It would be located at Central High School, up on the hill. A beautiful location for a high school, for one high school. That's why they chose it. Guess what? That's what Edison wants too. Talk about competition being good. Competition in the public school area, I don't think so. I'll give you a sports analogy. I taught high school here in Duluth at Denfeld and as football coach. I'll use a sports analogy even though my wife doesn't like sports analogies. So we're letting Edison in, theoretically, if they purchase Central. We're letting him in the game, okay? We're not letting him in on the 50-yard line. We're letting him in on our 5-yard line because they're going to attract students because of the location of the school. So it's going to happen. And I just, in conclusion, I'd like to say, remember who you are. You're elected officials of School District 709. And I know it's a difficult decision. Thank you very much.
Good evening again. Seems a little strange, Member Sandsted sitting in my chair. I don't think I kept it warm for you, but I don't think I damaged it either, so it's going okay. Knowing Barb, one of the best teachers I ever had, of course, I took some of the things I was going to talk about, so I'll try to be brief. The one thing I'll say about the other night, and most of you know when I do public speaking, I'm not so brief all the time. And I think last Monday, Tuesday, whatever night it was the first time, and I don't know how long, but you said 3 minutes, and I actually was under 3 minutes, so I'm really proud of myself. So I'll stay at 3 minutes again tonight. Now, talking about the business model, possible sale of Central to Edison, and we do need to look at it from a business standpoint as well as an educational standpoint. And as Marcia said, we heard a lot about competition. And so if you're going to apply that economic and competitive model to the sale, once we had enough business or students for 3 high schools, we have about 4,000 plus secondary students in this district. Now, our business enrollment has dropped to 2,500. And with the ideal high school size being 1,000 to 1,200, we only have enough for 2 high schools. And this is what we currently have, East and Denville. And they're pretty good size, and they're close to the ideal size. The logical location, well, you divide the district in half, and that's where Central was, right at the halfway point. And you have 1 high school in the middle of each half, that's a logical thing, and that's what we have. We have Central, or we have Denfeld and East, right in the middle of the attendance districts, and each with about 1,000 to 1,500 students. That's the goal we should have had, and we did have. Now our charter, as Marcia said, wants us to sell down Central property, $14.2 million, to establish Edison High School. It'll cost us about, I estimate, about 600 or 700 students. And that's a lot of people. And at $10,000, and I think it's actually more than that we get per student. But at $10,000 a student, we will be losing $6 to $7 million a year. And also in student aid. And it's worse because we're going to have 2 small high schools of 800 to 900 students, which is really below the ideal size. Now, what's the problem with that? Well, economically, they're less efficient if we're smaller, and we're maybe more cost effective, but students lose opportunities. We've heard that before. And I know that from spending, 17 years trying to schedule high schools, big ones, small ones, Central and Denville. And I know the smaller you get, the tougher and tougher it is to offer the courses you'd like to at both ends of the scale, the upper, the brightest students and the students that struggle. And so you get too small, and that hurts. You can't really put together a schedule in a high school that meets the needs.
Bill?
Yes?
It's 3 minutes.
Oh, it is? Okay, I'll finish it.
One more second.
Well, I guess I'll finish by saying you don't need a master's degree from the Labwitz Business School to conclude this isn't a good deal. Good for them, bad for us. So, again, I'm not in favor of that. And I'd like to go on for another 3 minutes, but I'll stop.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Next, we have Marcia Stromgren. Thank you for joining us tonight, Ms. Stromgren.
Thank you. Interesting. I followed you the other night, Bill. So here we are again. My name is Marcia Stromgren. I'm a business owner and taxpayer, big-time taxpayer as a business owner. Monday evening, a couple of speakers mentioned the term, think about the future, when you make a decision concerning whether or not to change your policy of selling no longer used learning sites to alternate education. Ones, I might add, will never pay back the bogus figures claimed in the red plan as a way to pay down the indebtedness to the taxpayers in the 709 school district. The future of the red plan is what we are currently experiencing, and its failed promises of selling buildings to pay down its bogus claims. It is not happening. Citizens will not see the benefits in reduced spending, but will continue to hear about deficits which directly affect the students who have been entrusted to give a worthwhile education to prepare them for their futures. Alternative education is doing what you have failed to do. And as parents realize alternatives are best for their children, will go elsewhere. I experienced this 40 years ago with our first child, and not much has changed. As representative of the voters in the 709 school district, it is time for you to make the change and do the right thing before it's too late and you don't have a buyer that will take the old Central site off your hands. Change the policy. The alternative education has been here, is going to build. Their parents wanted a high school. That's why they're building. Stop wasting money that goes toward the education of students that are still left. Thank you.
My name is Barb Welcome, and I'm asking you again to suspend the policies to consider selling Central to Edison. There was an online poll today on the Village News Tribune. 3,513 people had voted in it, and 82% of them voted to sell. 508 said no, and there were 110 undecided. The fellow spoke that you were elected to represent ISD 709, but you were also elected to represent taxpayers like me and the rest of us that fund ISD 709. I have some figures here from 2007 for the review and comment on the buildings that were up for sale in the red plan. Woodland, for instance, had a disposition value of $6.7 million. You sold it for $3 million. Morgan Park had a disposition of $465,000. You sold it for $100,000. Lincoln had a $610,000 price, and it was sold for $1. Piedmont had a $280,000 disposition price, but it was torn down, so you didn't get money from that either. Rockridge, right at that point in 2007, was going to be sold for $1,780,000. Central for $10 million. You had a buyer for $10 million who couldn't develop the site because it was too costly. You have a buyer right now, a potential buyer that's going to pay $14.2 million for this site. I think it's time to suspend the policies, consider it, doesn't even have to take it, but consider it for the tax-paying citizens that you were elected to represent. Thank you.
some confusion. And me mentioning Chicago in that public comment period. What I would first like to say is after doing some research into charter schools, and after having family and friends go to charter schools in Chicago, that's why I make the reference. I'll take it from this angle or this perspective. At first, I was like, charter schools, and very much like my family, and very much like community folks. Charter schools, they're this, they're that. Until you do your own research, and until you validate those truths for yourself, I began to maybe change my stance a bit. And after having conversations from family and friends in Chicago for the past couple of weeks, it was pretty evident that the first 6 years of charter schools in Chicago, it didn't go over well with the community, mostly the African American community. Reason why, everybody swear that public schools is the way to go. We've been this way for all these years. We don't need alternatives. We don't need this. We don't need to, shall we say, have competition. Well, 6 years later, statistics have shown that whether or not we like it or not as a community, charter schools have a proven track record. I don't like to admit that, but those are the facts. They have a graduation rate, and they're not immune from a lot of the same issues that any other school district go through in terms of discrimination, in terms of protected classes, so on and so forth. But what really changed my opinion on charter schools was seeing the numbers. Numbers have a way of telling us the cold, hard truth that so many of us maybe fail to realize. For whatever reason, the numbers are what they are. Charter schools are what they are. And whether we sell this building or not, they're going to build a school. And I would strongly say, go ahead, sell the building, and let's figure out a way to continue to move forward and be productive. Thank you.
Thank you. A new face. But I am here to ask you to suspend your policy. I'm a past business owner here in the city of Duluth. I moved here 22 years ago and have been very happy. But I see this as a chance now for the school district to finally move ahead with their plans, take money and run it. That's the best way to say it. Edison is coming to town. You're going to lose 500 or more students, as you say. You don't lose those 500 or more students anyway. It's not going to make a difference if the school is a mile this way or a mile that way. If parents are going to send their kids to the school, they're going to send them to the school. Do a better job, keep the kids, take the money, invest it in the school district, and make it a better place so you don't lose those 507 students. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I just want to say that the resolution before you tonight is to suspend policies 3195 and 8120. You are not selling the property tonight. What you're doing by suspending these policies is you are opening up possibilities. You're opening up doors. You're opening up possible avenues. You're not selling the property tonight, right? You're just getting the chance to be able to negotiate. And when you go to negotiate with Tisher Creek, you obviously know you've got a buyer that wants your property. Well, that's a nice thing to have because you can have you've got some leverage there. But you're at least opening up that possibility. I want to thank you for all that you do. I want to thank you for making this an open and transparent process. I hope that you vote based on what you feel is best for all the children of Duluth and for their families. I hope that you don't vote out of fear for reprisals or any other reason. I hope you just vote with your hearts on what you feel is best for the children of Duluth. And I think everyone in this room would respect you for that and admire you for that. So thanks for all you do.
Good evening once again. Well, this community discussion certainly has become interesting. Many of you have gotten to know my son Jude over the past year and a half as he occupied this very seat next to Representative Welty as the East Student Rep. And as you have gotten to know, he gets pretty revved up about all this governance and policy stuff. I don't know where he gets it. Our community has been witness to the effects of fear that comes from change. I'm a psychologist, I get how this works. I get it that after over 100 years of having a monopoly on public education, the introduction of choice for parents, choice for teachers, which is the original intent of the charter school bill, is perceived and in fact is a reality for many as a threat. Threat to those that oppose the power of choice. So what's the response? It's in the limbic system. Same as it was 20 years ago, it's what we're looking at now. As we're trying to meet the demands of parents of our nearly 1,400 students. First thing that happens, we see it in the politics of fear and control, is that facts and data become irrelevant. I'm going to go well over my 30, but it'd take me hours. It would take me hours. Please grant me 30 more seconds. Appreciate that. To counter the misinformation that's been either purposefully or ignorantly promoted to our community to confuse the issue at hand. So I'm not here to debate, I'm not here to lobby, only to request that as you make your decision to dismiss the overwhelming demand of the community, at least acknowledge the powerful special interests that these decisions represent. Shutting down this proposal is not representative of the broader community that we've seen. We've been humbled by that. So let's be honest with one another. The community deserves that.
And thank you for allowing me to do this. I was sitting in the back and I was actually doing some research to make sure that what I'm saying is appropriate and correct. Edison is a for-profit entity, so we have to keep that in mind first and foremost. And we should never, as a public entity, allow funds of any kind to privatize this particular type of school system. If you know the names Lamar Alexander, Benno C. Schmidt, John Chubb, Chester E. Finn, etc., they're all proponents of privatizing schools. And I don't agree with it. We should focus on our public school system. Edison has a lot of criticisms. One of those criticisms is their financial performance. It has been criticized for many years, not holding up to its end of the bargain. The academic performance, I want to have you keep this in mind, is not as good as you think it may be. In 2002, the New York Times did a study or an analysis on Edison's claims about their academic success. Even Cleveland, Ohio public schools perform better than Edison school project schools. Again, we should never privatize or allow the competition to get a one-up on our public school system. I love the Duluth Public Schools. I don't have children in Duluth Public Schools, but every child in Duluth Public Schools are something that I have my heart toward. And so we need to make our schools the best they can be and not allow others to come in and usurp that. Thank you very much.
Thank you for allowing me to speak. My name is Eric Brennan. I was a former soccer coach at East High School for a 15-year period. Two of my oldest kids graduated from East High School, and my 4 kids have all gone to Edison. So I feel somewhat torn about this whole thing. I see this whole discussion turning into a typical us versus them type argument. And I feel just kind of torn in between that. As a former coach, I'm a former East student. Have my former teacher, Bill Westholm here. Former board member was my boss as the athletic director, Mike Murneke. People I respect on the street and former teachers, I would never ever say anything critical about any of them, because I love my high school experience and my school experience. But I have to say, I also love my charter school experience for my kids. My wife's decision, it was her decision to enroll my kids at Edison. It's been fantastic for us. We made a choice and it was very, very good for us. To hear the negative criticism directed towards charter schools in general, I wish the topic was kept more towards the charter school in town, and be specific about criticisms. I don't think we're doing that. I would just urge you to please look at, I don't want to say taxpayers, but the citizens of Duluth who overwhelmingly feel like this is what we need to do, this is how we need to go forward in this district. And I just, remember Harlot, in the newspaper today I read where you talked about the fiscal responsibility to the taxpayers about not reselling the property that we've already paid for. But I have to ask, what is fiscally responsible about not selling the property at all? The property was overvalued at $30 million during the red plan phase. A $10 million offer fell apart, and with that went St. Scholastica's opportunity to buy into that because they're now building it and invested at Bluestone. I don't understand what offer you have that's going to top this and help the district. It helps everybody. It gives everybody choice in schools. It can make us stronger, especially if we stop tearing each other apart. That's the hardest part of this whole conversation is negative criticism or sorts. Edison and criticism could come directed at 709 as well, but I'm telling you, I would never do that because I have too much respect for the teachers and people involved. So please keep to the facts. Don't tear the city apart by criticizing one or the other. I know reality says that the union members and the district members are pro. It's not as far as not selling to Edison. I know Edison people are pro buying school and are to make their arguments. And many of you are influenced by the unions or what have you, but please, I just ask you to do what's best and listen to the community. Do what's best for the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Shelley Tyson.
Hi, sorry for signing up late. I have 8 kids, and I recently adopted my 4 grandkids. We've got a big mixed family. The first 3 are native, and the next 4 are black. I've got my youngest son, he's white, and then my grandkids are a mixture of all 3. So what I've found is, my kids say they attend Edison when they can. I've got one, my youngest grandson, up at Myers-Wilkins. They do a good job. They're a good school. The rest are at Edison. I've had some graduate from Central. I'm a Denfeld graduate myself, born and raised here. Duluth is our home. We love it here. Okay, some of the kids, they want to move down to the cities or wherever, but some of us are just, we're here to stay. And what I saw in the whole red plan thing, that just was a mess, was I had one daughter who actually experienced 1 year at Central with just Central students. After she, was out of Edison. The next year with the Central Denfeld combination. The next year over at East, and then she graduated from Denfeld. And it was her contention that it have wanted to be all along. The next daughter, she had really a lot of difficulties once she came out of Edison schools and went over to East. It was East's first year after, you know, the red plan, and they didn't do too well dealing with diversity. You know, I grew up a Denfeld graduate. We didn't care for Central. And there were issues at that time, back in the day. They dealt really well with diversity out there, and they got closed. When my daughter went to East, she went from being an Edison student who was in all sports, you know. Every part of the year she was in something. And on a student council, and just really active and a good student. And she got over to East, and it just, everything fell apart. She was getting into fights that were started by other students, and instead of the administration there being one that would hold their selves accountable for stopping all that, they were blaming the kids. She had a difficult time. I'm just saying, please consider that, you know, Edison schools, they're building. My kids will go to an Edison high school. Please give them that opportunity sooner so that I don't have any others fall through the cracks and deal with the same circumstances that one of my daughters did. Thanks.
Thank you for your comment. We have a resolution before us. First, we have a comment from Member Welty.
Yes, we have a resolution. I make a motion to substitute that resolution for the following resolution, which I'm calling B3-16, that's for the long -3344, which says, whereas the school board of ISD 709 has received a proposal from Tisher Creek Duluth Building Company, a nonprofit entity affiliated with the Duluth Public Schools Academy for the Central High School site, therefore, be it resolved that the school board directs the administration and the school board to initiate negotiations with Tisher Creek Building Company to devise, for the school board's consideration, the most favorable mutual conditions for said sale, including, but not limited to, provisions for enrollment caps, possible withholding of some parcels of the whole property from inclusion, potential joint usage of existing buildings, and an acceptable price for the purchase. Therefore, be it resolved that the school board of Independent School District 709, St. Louis County, Minnesota, shall place on its April 19 regular school board meeting agenda, pending a satisfactory contract for both parties, a resolution to suspend district policies 3195 and 8120 in order to implement a sale agreement acceptable to both parties. Madam Chairman, I move motion B-3-16-3355 dated March 31st, 2016.
Had a motion by Member Welty. There's a second by Member Johnston. Any discussion? Member Kirby.
I was going to speak to the other resolution, but I'll speak to this. I'll keep my response short, but I'd be happy to expand on it and other consideration at a later time if you request it. I'd like to thank people for all the calls and emails that I've had over the past week. I've read all of them, but have not had time to answer them individually. I appreciate the thought and effort that went into most of them. And I think there were about 50% who advocated changing these policies under consideration and about 50% who did not. However, this is not a referendum. We as a board, I think, must weigh the evidence before us and consider both the short and the long-term repercussions of our decisions for the students of ISD 709. It's no secret that I'm an advocate of a strong community-supported public school system.
Madam Chairman, may I note that I do not...
One moment, please.
worthy enough that I don't mind waiting until he's finished with his discourse.
Marcia, I think I was wondering the same thing, and then I noted that on the resolution you wrote, you also talk about a resolution to suspend the policies, and so was wondering about where it fit, and so we'll let Member Kirby finish his comment.
Now, I'm speaking about suspension of the policies. As you
So-
have in motion.
And I'm just going to ask Member Welty. Member Welty, are you also looking with your resolution to also look, is this in place of the resolution that is before us, or is this in addition to, I'm trying to understand your,
Thank you. No, my motion is not to suspend the policy. My motion is to begin negotiations, yet we don't have a contract before us to vote on, so it seems premature to have a suspension of the vote. I will elaborate, but I think I have no objection to Dr. Kirby, Member Kirby, continuing on with his discourse, and then I will get to my explanation for why I believe this motion is the one that we should consider rather than a suspension motion. Yes, this would be a...
thank you. Thank you. Member Kirby?
Do you want me to continue, or?
Yes, you're welcome to continue.
I would vote against this resolution, just like I do not think the policies 3195 and 8120 should be changed at this time, and I would vote against the resolution that was before us originally. These policies were originally placed in response to community concerns over similar issues, similar to those being debated now. The long-term impact on ISD 7 and 9 selling facilities to non-public schools. The result was detrimental then, and I believe it is no different now. Edison is not going away, I realize that. It's going to be built, its high school will be built. And while some parents find Edison schools, parochial schools, and private schools preferable to ISD 709 and send their children to them, this is their choice, and this is their right, and I wish them well. But we as a school board do not have any obligation to assist them. Our obligation is to provide ISD 709 students with the best educational programming, staff, and facilities that we can, and to the best of our ability ensure that this will continue. Placing a charter high school at the site of Old Central High School will most likely draw students away from the central and western parts of Duluth, disproportionately affecting Minnesota. Duluth has had extensive discussions on the pros and cons of 3 high schools in the city, as was mentioned earlier. And in view of the financial cost and the need for enough students to provide adequate programming at its high schools, the decision was made to have 2 high schools. This didn't come without problems, but adding a 3rd non-public high school would just exacerbate these problems. The short-term financial windfall that offered to the district does not justify, in my opinion, the longer-term financial and other problems that would be incurred because of this.
Thank you, Member Kirby. I'll put it over to Member Welty to explain a little bit more. Are you comfortable with that, Member Welty?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, in short, I believe that it's putting the cart before the horse to consider a suspension of the rules when we do not even have a negotiated settlement. We have been told that $14.2 million has been offered for what I presume is the entire 77 acres of the Central High School site. But as with apparently 2 previous offers, we have not seen it. I believe that there are a lot of things that need to be looked at and discussed, and we have only had a short time to look at this, and that's not enough time to evaluate whether this would be good for our district. I cannot disagree with the Member Kirby when he says that we have no obligation to the charter schools. On the other hand, I would say that we most assuredly must provide the very best for our children, and $14.2 million should not be sneezed at, especially at a time when we're facing cuts of staff amounting to $3.3 million. And Among the things that I've put in here are some of the things that I think that need to be dealt with. The first one is a cap. There have been a number of people here tonight, and in the emails and other communications that I have received, and that we as a board have received, that have indicated that they do not wish, and I'll put it a little more bluntly, they do not wish our charter school, the Duluth Public School Academy, to poach any more of our children. Well, everyone, even those people who oppose selling Central, acknowledge that there will soon be a new Duluth Public School Academy High School, and we will lose the students anyway. And I would point out that in the absence of any sort of negotiated agreement, if they do as well as they have done in making people happy with the product that they have, there is every possibility that 10 years from now, there might be pressure by the rest of the community to add an addition without some sort of a cap on our relationship with the Duluth Public Schools Academy. What some people are predicting might very well come true, the law of self-fulfilling prophecy. I can't look 10 years into the future, but I see that that is very short-sighted on the part of the Duluth School District. The Duluth Public Schools Academy has been underestimated a great many times. In fact, one of the motivations for some people of promoting the Red Plan was to draw all the students from the Duluth Public Schools Academy back into our schools. Instead, we've had about a 10 or 15% exodus of our students. So we have not played our game of educational chess particularly well. In addition to that, the suggestion has been made that the Duluth Public Schools Academy would simply like to buy the entire property. I've had some conversations with people that represent the Charter School Academy, and I know this is not true. Essentially, they're looking for a school site, and if the Duluth Schools, ISD 79, thinks it can sell some portions of that property for more, they would be willing to include that. In addition, we have some of our facilities staff in some of the buildings up on the Central High School site, and the charter people have indicated to me that they would have no objection allowing our facilities management to stay up there. It would be convenient, and perhaps we could do the maintenance on the building instead, or simply own it. These are the sorts of things that we as a community need to discuss. They have not been discussed up to this point. So, as I said before, it is premature for us to consider suspending a rule when we don't know what we would be suspending it for. We have to see if our staff, that this resolution calls for, our administration and some school board members, if we can negotiate some sort of a deal that would be happy for all of us. And the critical thing would be, is this going to be a proposal which will be in the best interests of our children, our school, our community? It would just be nice if the Duluth Public Schools Academy wasn't harmed by this, although I will say that buying this great huge building that's much bigger than their current needs is probably a little risky on their part, especially when they bumped the offer up so much. This may be imprudent on their part, and I take this as nothing other than a mission of offering a kind of a peace treaty to the Duluth Public Schools, which have had many people who have looked with great disdain on the Public School Academy. So I would like to have some negotiations because we, to my knowledge, have not really had any. There's a general offer, but it's certainly not an offer that I would accept at this point because of the things that I have mentioned here and perhaps some other things. So I would like to do this. I have no interest in suspending the policy until I can see what we would be suspending it for. And I would like to be able to have some kind of an offer worked out by our next meeting, April 19th, which I know to be a date which would be acceptable to the people at the Duluth Public Schools Academy.
Thank you. Member Oswald, I saw your card up.
Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
I know that people want to stop paying for this policy. That's what I get. I also get that there's a lot of fear, there's a lot of misinformation. I've also seen the discussions in the emails and conversations to me migrate from surprise and shock to, oh my gosh, I that's a lot of money, all the way into, wow, I'm not so sure, but what about this, and what about this? And they're bargaining in their emails, and they're offering different alternatives and suggestions. I don't see either decision of selling or not selling tonight as a voting decision, because I see us ending up in the same place no matter what, and each side will be pointing fingers at the other. I honestly believe the answer is somewhere in the middle, and we need to have the opportunity to talk about what is in the middle, to see if there is some kind of ground that can satisfy people that want to stop paying for this property and to shore up our enrollment and make it advantageous for us to move forward together in educating all the kids in the entire city of Duluth. Because we as a school board have to look at every kid in this city as a potential ISD 709 student. Just because they go somewhere today doesn't mean that they're not going to come back tomorrow. But also, kids that are here now who may choose to leave, have to protect all of them. And Member Welty's proposal to introduce negotiations as the only way we should probably go. Because we can't make a decision right now, and we don't want to pit one side against each other. We want to find a winning solution for everyone. That's all.
Thank you, Member Oswald. Member Johnston.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I support the substitute resolution for the reasons that have been said. I think that it allows, for example, I got a copy of the offer that was given to our schools. And being asked to make a decision on a lot of money, and I haven't been given an offer. I've asked for that. I haven't got it. So until we can know what we're even talking about here, I think that we don't have to suspend this policy now. We have to sit down and actually get an offer from Medicine. I hear they've made one. I haven't got it yet. I'd like to get some of this information. There's a lot of other information, like, for example, getting a realtor involved, getting a developer involved, getting a financial analyst involved to see if we should be making these decisions. None of this has happened at all. So this motion to substitute allows us to not make that nasty decision whether or not we're going to suspend this policy, but it directs us to go forward, look to see if we have any common ground. I don't know if we have. I'm not set to say that, but I think we have an offer before us that we should look at before we even suspend these policies. If we can't make an offer, if we can't make a negotiated agreement, I should say, we shouldn't suspend the policy. And I don't know what we're suspending. I don't know what the offer even is. I'm a school board member.
Thank you. Member Lefler-Kemp.
I too had written down some comments, and I'm going to speak towards those, and they were to speak to resolution or to policy 3195 and 8120, and to not suspend. I will not support suspending these policies, and also I was going to speak towards voting against resolution B 316-3355, and I think member Kirby, I'm just going to kind of speak to my thoughts that I had taken a lot of time to put together. And I first want to say I greatly have appreciated also the many ways the community has provided us input through the community meeting on Monday, through phone calls, emails, had many conversations at the grocery store, at church, in a number of the organizations I'm involved with. So I really have appreciated the conversation the community has had about education and about public education, and so I've been really grateful for the many conversations there. And I think all of our board members here, I know I've listened, I've learned, and I'm making my decision and wanting to express my decision, on that input, but also on being involved in this community for 22 years, sitting in this boardroom, often in the back of the room as a parent, listening and learning, and just being engaged in the community. And there's been lots of discussions over that time period on Edison, on the current policies that we have on why we don't sell to competing schools. And many folks know I too am a parent, I'm a taxpayer, I'm a homeowner. I have 3 kids that have graduated from our Duluth Public Schools. I have a current 8th grader, so I'm concerned about her education for the short term as well. But I'm sitting up here tonight as an ISD 709 elected school board member. And so as I've been thinking about tonight's meeting, I've been thinking about the short-term and the long-term impact of the decision we're making tonight on should we or should we not suspend the policy. The short-term and long-term impact on our school district and on our kids in our school now and in our kids in the future. And so for those reasons, for the reasons of having the knowledge from being a school board member the last 2.5 years, having been reviewing this information and sitting through many, many meetings, I sat in some of the meetings when these 2 policies were put into place, when they were reviewed the last couple times, and appreciate the foresight of boards before me. So I, like my colleague David, do not think we need to suspend the policies. I would not support this substitute policy, and I would vote against the resolution if we get there.